Welcome to the Crunchy Moms Unfiltered, the podcast where we question everything and say the things no one else will. I'm April Locani, a serial entrepreneur turned naturopathic practitioner and just a truth-seeking mama.
And I'm Brandy Lemire, a social media influencer, a certified nutrition response practitioner, and just a crunchy mom who's done with censorship and refuses to co-parent with the government. April and I built this podcast as a safe space for moms and dads to have real, raw, uncensored conversations.
From what's really in our food to the truth about modern medicine, we're diving deep into the topics no one else wants to touch because an informed mom makes empowered choices.
No filters, no fear, just real, raw talk. Welcome to Crunchy Moms Unfiltered.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Crunchy Moms Unfiltered. As you know, the podcast where you could say the raw, the real, the unfiltered truth, everything that'll get you kicked off of social media. And we are super excited today because we have one of our favorite brands on, Macor Coffee with Eli Mash. He's going to tell you all about his brand. Brandy and I have been enjoying his coffee for so long, even before I had gotten caffeine intolerant. But don't worry, they have a decaf that's amazing, and we're going to tell you all about it.
I know, it's funny. He actually, we brought the coffee out, and this is the decaf, and this is the caffeinated. And he's like, "Oh, I can see there's a clear favorite. Which one you guys like?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I like my caffeine."
April used to drink coffee out of an IV drip bag until all of a sudden I woke up with all the things, breast implant illness, mold illness, and I couldn't have caffeine anymore. And it was so depressing. So I was telling Eli, and he's like, "Oh, girl, we got you. We're going to get you some decaf. It's got all the benefits." I'm like, yes.
So I think this is a really important conversation before we turn this over to Eli. If you followed me for a long time on social media, I was exposed to toxic mold. I got really sick like 6 years ago. And going down that mold journey, I started learning all the things about food and mold and everything. And it led me to coffee. And I did this campaign called the Truth About campaign. Mm-hmm. And in the Truth About campaign, I was exposing the truth about coffee. And I pissed a lot of people off on the internet because they're like, "Don't cover my coffee." And so ever since then, I've been a coffee snob to where we'll be out somewhere and we'll stop. And I'm like, I might not have had coffee that morning. And if it's not good, organic, like clean coffee, I will suffer through.
No, I was the same way. I was when I was drinking coffee. And I don't drink coffee now because I can't enjoy the caffeine, but the decafs are all trash.
Right.
The decafs are never organic. Mm-hmm. They're never good. So this is the perfect time for you to introduce Macor. So go ahead, Eli. Tell us your why. Tell us all the good stuff about your brand and things that people wouldn't know.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. And to hit your decaf point, the reason that you don't find a lot of good organic decaf is because decaf is more expensive and not many people drink it. So we have, my parents drink decaf, and I know people have caffeine sensitivities. They drink decaf. So we thought it was important to put out a really good decaf. So we did that. But anyway, so actually my partner and I, who's also, I don't know if I told you guys, his name is also Eli.
It's so funny.
We started this brand in late 2024. Actually sold our first bag on my 40th birthday in November.
Wow,
2024.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. So about a year and a quarter ago. And I grew up in a culture at my house that all my friends thought that I was weird, the weird kid. I wasn't, I probably shouldn't put that out there, but I wasn't a vaccinated kid. My parents are all.
I love it. And you're probably never sick.
I was never sick. I mean, the many things to say about that. We won't go all the way in. This is a coffee episode. But my friends always thought my family was a little bit weird. We wouldn't have sugary cereals. My parents are both chiropractors. My aunt's a nutritionist. My uncle's a chiropractor. And I grew up in a family that was always taught that organic is very important, and you better think about your health when you're young, because when you're older, you might not have time to think about it. And we really thought about in the sense of, preventative medicine through food. So for us, I've always been this organic person, but then I kind of grew up. I went to college. I became a bond trader, and all that kind of stuff flew off the radar in my 20s. I didn't really think about it. And I just kind of ate what I wanted, thought through it. And, I never had like a serious illness because of it. But, I got near my 40, I kind of thinking like, I am getting I feel my body in different ways now. And as Eli and I thought about what we wanted to start from a business, we wanted to start something. We thought, hey, we drink coffee all the time. Coffee is not something you need to remember to drink. You don't need to remember to eat it like your vitamins. You just take your coffee every morning. So why don't we make the healthiest coffee possible? So that is how we started this coffee. We said it's got to be organic. It has to be tested. We're not the first coffee brand to do testing. Other people have done it. That's what made us think of it. We really appreciated that. And we thought, hey, if we're gonna make the healthiest coffee, we're gonna go all in, and we're gonna make it, everything's gotta be the healthiest. So organic, tested for toxins, tested for mold, tested for even gluten. People have gluten allergies for cross contamination.
Me.
And yeah, so there you go. So we thought through this, and that's the way we started. And then lastly, even our decaf, we make sure like it's got to be Swiss water processed, right? It has to be no chemicals at all, and no additives, no enhancers. We're just gonna do it the pure way, and that's how we started.
I love that. And so here's the thing I think that a lot of people don't understand is you think about coffee and like you grew up drinking Folgers or
Right.
Maxwell House and you're like, coffee is coffee, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think people realize there's a kind of dark side to coffee.
Yeah.
And that's where like we love brands like yours because we talk a lot about being in the matrix and taking the red pill and the blue pill. And once you take the pill, you can't go back, unfortunately. And it like shapes every life decision. And so, me with coffee, like I actually joke with the guy I've been dating in church. He gets coffee every morning and he gets like he knows, but he gets a cheap coffee in a plastic cup. And he's like, I'm drinking my moldy microplastic coffee. And I'm like, yes. Like once you know, you know.
At least you know.
At least you know. And so I think that's really important. And what I want to touch on a little bit is like coffee is one of the moldiest crops. And so maybe
why when we're sick with, if you're sick with mold illness or been exposed, you don't realize it, but it makes you feel worse.
Well, yeah. And they're like, well, cut out the coffee. It's the caffeine.
Right.
Well,
it's probably not the caffeine.
Probably the mold. So let's start there. And we're going to go into pesticides next. And especially with the recent executive order, I think that's really important. But let's start with the mold because all of your products, and here's what's important, guys, is it says that they're third-party tested for mold and mycotoxins. And so if your coffee doesn't say that and it just says organic.
I was just going to say, bring up that organic doesn't mean.
Yeah, organic's great, but it doesn't mean mold-free. So can you touch on that a little?
Absolutely. So I think you hit the point right. Like whether you're drinking conventional or organic, mold can absolutely be in there. And we, like I said, we're not the first ones to do this, but testing coffee is very important because mold can be attracted, really throughout the entire process. When there's water involved, there can be mold, right? When coffee's sitting on the store shelf for months, there can be mold. One of the things we do as a direct-to-consumer brand is we make our coffee, we roast it, and then we ship it out within 48 hours. So that the coffee you're getting is fresh. We do testing, which obviously there's an expense to it. That's why a lot of brands don't do it, right? Because I think everyone would like to do it, but there's an expense to it, and that's why you can see cheaper coffee on the shelves. And again, cheaper coffee may be mold free too. So I don't want to say that's negative. Coffee is healthy. Coffee is healthy, kind of how you drink it. But mold can be in the process. So testing mold is important, and testing for it after the roast is important because actually the roast will kill a lot of mold, up to 90% of it, but not always all of it, right? So we just go that extra step to make sure that it's mold free. People who have mold sensitivities, someone like me, actually, it might not affect very much, but Brandy, like you said, someone like you, it might affect a ton. So we just try to take that next step.
It would definitely affect. I'm pretty sure that's why I couldn't drink a lot of coffee and didn't realize it because I didn't know I was exposed.
So mold is a huge one. And I think that's a big conversation that I love that we're having those because again, a lot of people don't know. And it's one of those, you don't know what you don't know.
And you think you're buying organic and you're like, okay, I'm good. It's organic. But you don't realize that it doesn't mean it's free.
So organic is better. Let's go into this next step. So not only, again, coffee lovers, don't come for us. I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I had people come in with pitchforks when I talked about this like 5-6 years ago on Facebook, but let's talk about pesticides. So coffee is actually one of the most heavily pesticide sprayed crops that there is. And maybe you can give us a little insight on the why. Yeah. And so obviously organic is better, but let's talk about the pesticide side of things. And then we'll get into the new executive order and talk a little glyphosate.
Okay. Yeah, no, I love this because, the pitchfork thing aside, I do want to make sure everyone's reminded that like organic coffee is more expensive. If you want, if that's not in the budget, like regular coffee, although it's pesticide sprayed, and we'll get into all the stats, the roasting process does kill most of it. I think that's important for people to know, but it doesn't kill all of it. So keep drinking your coffee. This is for people who really want to be sure that all of it's gone, right? And so that's, or most all of it's gone. So that's why we'll go into this. I think it's important to note, and I love this story. I think I told you guys, before we chatted here, how coffee started, because I think it's kind of an important part to kind of figure out how we got here. So there was a goat farmer named Caldy
I
in the
love
9th
this.
century, right? And he was herding his goats, and he'd been herding his goats, and then one day his goats started becoming like just these jumping goats, and there's energy all over the place. And he was wondering why. First day didn't matter. It happened again the next day. And he was realizing they were eating this little, red berry, right? And eating the coffee cherry. And what happened is that he tasted it and he became very energetic, very focused. And then he passed it off to the monks in the town because they needed to stay up. And then they became focused. And they actually were the ones that started spreading and brewing coffee, or the monks.
That's so
Um,
funny.
yeah. And then it went over to the East, to Asia and Africa, then to Europe. And then finally in the Americas, we got it. And, obviously it was hundreds of years later. But the point is that today is one of the most consumed agriculture products in the world. If you know people who are adults, I think it's 500 million cups of coffee, 500 million in just the US are drank every single day. 500 million. So for me, it's like, whoa, that's an
What?
insane, that's an insane number. And I think that leads to like the pesticides, right? When you're growing that many crops and you have bugs that are eating these seeds, the only way to scale that, or a way to scale that to all these people who want to drink several cups of coffee a day, is to spray the crops so that they have yield, and then farmers want to grow it so they can make money. And it all happens for good reason, and people who mean the best and are trying to support their families. And I think that's becomes, that's how this becomes. And if you look at it, there was actually a sample done. The study was a little bit old. It's 2019. It's the most recent one I could find when I started this, but that had 50% of the 3,000 coffee samples had a detectable level of mycotoxins.
Yeah.
Usually pretty low, because roasting does kill up to 90%, but not all of it, right? And then I think it was like 15 or 20% of the coffee samples post roast had mycotoxins, still almost 20%. So that's why organic is so important, because if they're sprayed with dozens of these toxins throughout their life cycle, getting organic means that you're not having pesticides.
Right.
And that's why we think it's very important to make sure it's organic. And that's why, because, if you could have an organic farm right next to a conventional farm as well, so there can be some cross contamination sometimes.
Okay.
And
Good to
that's why we
know.
go that final step to test for the mycotoxins to
Oh,
ensure
that
it's
makes
right.
sense, because if you don't have a third party tested, which is why we preach third party testing, the organic farm might have all the intention on being organic, but they're next to a non organic farm, and then cross contamination happens. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Now, I know last time we talked a lot about your sourcing, and I love to hear where it was sourced from. So could you tell us that again?
Yeah, so we actually source our whole bean coffee and our Moments blend. Those are the caffeinated versions. We source them from Colombia and Nicaragua, so they're actually high up in the mountains there. And what helps there is that because they're high up, they actually deal with a little bit more harsh weather. So they're sturdier plants, and they go
Yeah.
through that sturdy process. And whether the studies have done yes or no, there's been some studies that said yes, some studies said actually not. But supposedly, and we just try our best here. Supposedly they have a higher level of nutrients in them because of that. So that's why we get them up there, and also it provides a really good medium dark roast, which we like.
Yeah.
And then our decaf is actually sourced from the mountains in Mexico.
Oh, okay. Love that. So yeah, I think it's really important to know your sourcing, know your third party testing, especially when they just released an executive order talking about producing glyphosate in America, right? And
Yeah.
that was really touchy, because us Maha moms were hoping to be getting rid of it altogether, but instead of getting it produced in China, they started producing it here, kind of letting us know it's not going anywhere.
So that's what the executive order was.
Yes.
So a lot of people didn't understand it. So I guess most of the glyphosate was produced in China. And so the US wanted to take control of
the production of it.
Yeah. So that was what the executive order was for it to be produced here. So there's a lot of talk and a lot of upset in like the Crunchy Maha movement over this, rightfully so. And so, we're saying like, we know it's dangerous. We know it's linked to lymphomas and, damaging your microbiome, and it's an endocrine disruptor. And there's all these issues with glyphosate.
Cancer causing.
All the things. And so I think, half the people are saying, well, if we took it away, if we banned it immediately, it would destroy the farmers.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're so used to using it. So I hear that, and I get that.
Same.
I think what a lot of us were hoping for was maybe a tiered approach. Like, hey, we're taking production back. It's going to be produced in the United States instead of China, but we're going to phase it out by 2028, whatever that might look like.
And it might happen. You never know.
But that's not what we got. And so what we have now is what feels like a strong arm by Monsanto, Bayer, whatever. This is where we're at. So I think it's important, we're having a lot of these conversations. The timing is amazing that we're, talking to you guys about your coffee, which is tested for all the things, and it's pesticide free and whatnot. We're having this on the tail of this executive order because that's a really big topic now. And I think what happened was much like COVID, where the people that weren't aware of COVID before COVID, it woke them up, and now they're like, oh, my eyes are open to all these things. So people who might not have been fully aware
that China produced it, maybe,
or even what glyphosate was or how damaging it is.
Now the light's on it.
Now they're like, oh wait, pesticides, and they're learning more. So I think it's a great time for this conversation about even your products and why it's so important to know the sourcing
and the third-party testing, because people might not even know that's a thing. And it just goes to show glyphosate isn't going anywhere right now. So third-party testing is really important because now it's here. And this is what it is. And hopefully it brings light to it, but it also brings light to the fact that you guys take that extra step.
Yeah. And some people don't care. Some people are going to be like, I'm drinking my Folgers. I don't care what you say. But those of us that are very, very mindful of what we put in our bodies, like I'm always thankful when I see things like this, where it's like, oh, I didn't know that brand existed.
Me too.
That's amazing. Like I'm always trying to do better.
Well, right. Like I didn't even know you had decaf at all when we talked last time, and then you did. And I'm like, oh, third-party tested decaf? Heck yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I love your guys' points. And I think, I am making this coffee. I'm going to give a little bit of a counterpoint just so people don't feel terrible if they're drinking coffee. Okay. and listen, we built this brand because we know that it's healthier, right? It is healthier. And we believe very strongly it's healthier. And we believe people should go this route. The thing about coffee versus maybe strawberries or, other fruits or vegetables is coffee is roasted. The roasting does kill a lot of these things. But what we as a brand have decided that we are not in the market to say we're always the best for everybody. We are in the market to try our best every day to create the healthiest coffee. And that means going around the edges and trying to make it slightly better on everything we do.
Right.
But for people who out there drinking coffee or drinking their Folgers, yes, like there could be a lot of mold in those things because they could be sitting on the shelf for a long time.
Yeah.
There could be toxins in there too, but please note that like it is being cooked, it's being roasted, and not all of it might come off, but a lot of it will. So again, we are just trying to be better in the sense of for people who do have these sensitivities, who are more sensitive than maybe somebody else, who do care more about this. And then I think one thing to note that we had talked before, like what we do, I think to make us different, and I think in some ways better, is we also, at least our main blend, we actually add in organic cacao, and we test for that. We test for heavy metals because people are known cacao can have heavy metals in it. So we test to make sure we're under the limits there. And then we have a anti-inflammatory blend that's about 3% in there. That's organic turmeric, organic Ceylon cinnamon, which is the real cinnamon, right? That's also cool with the healthier cinnamon. So we go on that step as well. We have organic chaga mushroom. We have organic ginger and organic cayenne in there. And what we do is we say, hey, coffee by itself is very healthy, but if we can add in these sorts of things too for theobromine and cacao, or to give you some of the anti-inflammatory benefits. Again, going back to what we said is you're drinking coffee every day. Who's eating turmeric or ginger or cayenne or cinnamon every single day? Nobody is, right? So this allows you to get all those ingredients at a moderate level that's not going to be over the top, but also get you a little bit healthier every day. So again, I'm not trying to scare people, but I do think, having healthy organic coffee is very important, but you got to do what you can do.
Absolutely.
I love that perspective. And
it's like habit stacking,
Well, yeah,
something you
so-
already do. So you stack
Yeah.
a habit on it of healthy whole foods.
And it doesn't change the flavor where it's really strong.
Right.
It's actually very
Yeah.
mild. It tastes amazing. And it says on here, enhanced organic coffee on a mission to reduce inflammation. And inflammation is a topic we talk a ton about. Like inflammation is the root of so many things.
Yep. Chronic inflammation is definitely the root.
It is. And it's wild.
Yeah.
That's actually something I did a lot. We've been dealing with a lot of inflammation since being sick with mold and, dealing with some other things. And I cut out dairy like 4 or 5 months ago. And the amount of inflammation that left my body is wild. Like it's crazy.
I went gluten-free because of that.
So I think that's really important to note. And like you said, if you're someone that's struggling with inflammation, but you're not thinking to get all of these things in your system every day, you don't even have to think about it. It's in your coffee.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it. For us, it's just, hey, how do we get these things? And the levels that are in there are not going to be medicinal like you take out of a pill. It's not like that. It's just, to your point, it's just enough that the taste tastes slightly chocolatey or slightly spicier. But we want this to be coffee, and we want people to, if they do it every single day over time, we hope that it reduces inflammation. And some people, some of the reviews we get, I don't even believe sometimes. I'm like, how did that actually affect whether it's placebo or not? Because we're not so high in the medicinal, but we get some crazy reviews of people saying it's the only coffee they can drink. And to me, like, that's why we do this. And I can go out and drink a Starbucks coffee once in a while, and I do. Right. I do once in a while. Like, I am not this like only, I work really well with you guys because I understand exactly how you guys think. And I appreciate this so much. I can have a Starbucks coffee, but some people can't. And that's true.
But
Some people just can't do it. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because everyone thinks because of posts or our image on the internet that we aren't like normal people, right? Like just because
I love you
mom
guys.
is really food conscious doesn't mean we're not normal people. Doesn't mean you might not see me. I don't drink coffee like that. I drink your coffee, but I don't go to, but let's just pretend. Doesn't mean you're not going to see one of us with a Starbucks coffee or a donut one day in our life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gluten-free, so maybe not. But at the end of the day, we are normal people. We're not attacking our kids at a birthday party and knocking the cupcake out of their hand. Like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like, I laugh, especially in my family. They drive me lightweight crazy because unfortunately I do not come from 2 chiropractors. I wish, but they drive me nuts. They're like, can your kid have that? And I'm like, it's a cracker. Like, really? It's a cracker, dude. Like, it's not organic. And I'm like, all right, guys, like, enough. It's Thanksgiving. It's like, so I love that you mentioned that because that is a huge point to bring out, is that we bring light to these topics so that there's balance.
Well, and you teach your kids the cupcake thing. We'll be at a party and there's like a rainbow color of cupcakes. And we're like, of course you guys can have a cupcake, but let's choose a vanilla or a chocolate. We're not having the red cupcake.
I hear it.
Unless you're staying with whoever's having the party for the rest of the night, you're not coming home on a red cupcake, but you can have a cupcake. So,
but at the end of the day, if it's only red cupcakes, my kid is still going to have one of those red cupcakes. I'm going to hate myself after, but it's balance and it's
the guilt.
Like these topics, not shunning anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys and I are, this is very aligned. This was, this was, what I was hoping to talk about too, is just like I think not everybody knows, right? Like I appreciate your podcast so much because people, they live their lives and they're not supposed to know everything, right? Like they're not, it's too much to know. So you bring people in like me who know a lot about coffee. That's one more thing that people know about. And I really appreciate that.
Knowledge is power.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Knowledge is power. It gives you back your power, right?
Well, yeah. And I feel like for both of us being on the healing journeys that we've been on, like, we talk a lot about vaccines. That was a journey for me that started 10 years ago. And it was really hard to find information. And then came food and all the things. And while we're learning all of this, we're going out and having to like dig for information. And so that's the whole goal of the podcast, is like, if we can bring all the things that we've learned over the last decade into one place where people can just turn on our podcast and learn about coffee, or they can learn about glyphosate, or they can learn about whatever, and if an episode doesn't get you excited.
right.
You scroll right past it, go to the
Right.
next one. But we're putting all of that stuff in one place.
Mhm.
And as moms, we have like 987,000 tabs open in our brain a day. And we have so much going on and we have so many things to do that, like, if this is one less thing that we have to like think about, but we can learn something.
Yeah, decision fatigue is real. And when you're a mom and you're overwhelmed, it's not realistic to dive all in all the time. So hearing little
No matter
tidbits
how
and
much
little-
us men and fathers think we do, I understand that our tabs are not as open as yours.
No, you guys have like 5 to our 1 million, but that's okay. That's why we compliment each other. That was the whole thing in Mom's Group today.
Yes, it was all about we were created to balance and we were equal partners. Everyone misunderstood the Bible for 4,000 years until the New Testament came.
But that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that could be a
Okay.
different one we do with you guys, because this is my wife and I talk about quite often.
I love it. Well, we're so grateful for you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this information. We
Yeah.
will include all the things, the link to the coffee, the show notes,
I
anything
think we have a
talked
discount
about.
code too. We'll put all that in the show
We've
notes.
got a code,
great.
Crunchy code for sure. And we'll probably have you come back on or something and we'll reconvene once all the glyphosate stuff's over. Maybe
Post
we'll
the
have more to talk
glyphosate
about.
whenever you guys want me. I love doing this, and I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much.
I
No
love
problem.
it.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
You guys are doing a
Bye.
great job. Thanks so much. Take care.
Hey guys, thank you for joining into today's episode. We want to take a minute to honor our sponsors. Today's sponsor is the School Rockwell School of Medicine, Holistic Medicine. And in every single episode, we like to honor each one of our sponsors so that you guys know exactly what we're doing in our everyday lives. You'll be able to find all of their information in our show notes on every single episode. So today, Brandy, share a little bit with us about Rockwell.
Okay, if you're like April 9, you're the kind of person that's constantly asking, but what's actually causing this? You're going to love Rockwell School of Holistic Medicine. So we've partnered with them because that's exactly how we think. They teach root cause, not just symptom management. Like if you're learning how to actually understand the body order and interpret your own labs, and even look at the emotional and spiritual side of things too, because that's really important in your healing journey. This is something we're both personally doing. I'm currently taking their nutritional medicine course, and April is diving into spiritual medicine, which honestly tells you how comprehensive this school really is. Honestly, this isn't just if you want to build a business. This is for your home, your kids, your family, your everyday decisions. It's fully online, self-paced, and how medicine should have been taught. And just for our listeners, they're giving a $777 discount. So check the show notes for information and the coupon code.